Weird games are those games you look at and can't quite describe, or you can describe them, but that description is that, well, they're weird. They come in many different shapes and forms. What constitutes them as weird really depends on the person talking about them. You could say that the weird touches that make up Undertale's world turn it into a weird game, or you could say that a game has to completely depart from normality to be weird. I find many games to be weird, but personally I believe the ones that really stick out are the ones that really lean into it. We're talking about all the details. Weird from head to toe, from the writing to the visuals to the gameplay to the music. The reason I have such an interest in them is mostly because I operate on a similar level of weirdness in my day-to-day life. Random garbled messes that come together to form some kind of coherence. Weird games stand out from the crowd primarily for this reason. They're not only unique to other games, but also form together something cohesive within the chaos they wreak. There are a lot of chaotic weird games, but none are quite as weird and chaotic as Cruelty Squad. Cruelty Squad is a surreal immersive sim, taking the point of view of a contracted killer in a world inundated by technology and the stock market. Its sights are bright and nauseating, and its people are anything but normal, the most normal of which being the corporate rats that hold high offices. Although even they don't seem to be all too put together. The goal of Cruelty Squad is to save up enough money to buy a house. It's also to kill God, or several gods, depends on which ones you want to kill. Cruelty Squad is seemingly randomly generated, everything being so insane and far from your comprehension that it just melts together into one big mess. Most of your experience is spent getting used to the game, then after that, your experience is understanding what's even happening. Cruelty Squad isn't necessarily long. There's only 19 missions in the whole game, but those missions are full of things to do and find. There is one mission early on where your task is to kill the CEO of an orbital launch corporation because he's trying to increase the survival rate of their interstellar missions. Another mission later on tasks you with killing the owner of a casino. Why, you may ask? Well, because the corporate archdemoness Elsa Holmes lost all of her vacation bonus there. Each mission is just as crazy and messed up as the last. Most of your targets are corporate leaders. The few who aren't are still linked to the market in some way, shape, or form. This is just about the only truly coherent thing in Cruelty Squad. Corporations ruling the world, aiding in the immense suffering of everyone else unfortunate enough to live there. That is another big part of Cruelty Squad. Suffering is at the center of nearly every transaction in the game, including your own experience. The character you play as can buy or find several implants that help you complete missions. These implants, as you can see, are not normal. You can get a second set of intestines to swing along buildings with, holes in your back that spew nasty goop from your body to shoot you forward, sacks of goop in your legs that let you double jump, and other nasty, crazy things like that. One of the chief mechanics in the game is the stock market. You can access this market at any time using a keybind. You can use this market to gain a lot of money or lose a fair amount as well, though there are ways of gaming the system that can prove useful later on. The visuals aren't the only crazy headache-inducing nightmare in Cruelty Squad. The audio I've been forcing you all to listen to along with this narration is supposed to be the game's music. The combination of tones and notes is something that I can't really describe in any other way than, well, weird. It fits this world's suffering in a way that I can't really describe. There is a point when playing where the music kind of melds together with the visuals and you kind of forget about it. The whole experience immersing you into this nightmare of visual slop. I highly recommend diving into this game blind for one of the better experiences. You really get to know the game and all its strange concepts that way, forging your own path as you go, the game twisting your perception of what is normal and what is not. Normality being something that many of these games lack, and not many lack normality quite like Hylics. Hylics is one of those games that exists as more of an experience than a game. As far as its gameplay is concerned, Hylics is quite basic and is on par with the starter RPG Maker games. The game's artistic expression is what makes the game stand out, its style being the thing that draws many people to it. That's what interested me, and I believe interested most of its fans. Hylics is weird in the same way that Cruelty Squad is weird. There is a somewhat understandable story, or at least a goal to follow. Everything after that is a trippy, out-of-this-world experience. You encounter strange areas in a world that isn't quite like our own, but share enough similarities to be comprehensible. You talk to characters who speak in random sentences, saying everything, yet nothing at the same time. You seek out to defeat the person at the top of everything, and in doing so, disrupt things at the bottom. Where the two games differ is in their presentation, Hylics being a turn-based RPG, at least in its elements. The world being made of some sort of clay, morphing constantly. The world of Hylics seems to always be in a state of formation, clay molding into new forms for you to take on. The characters and enemies of Hylics often appear this way, clay molds slapped together by the universe, taking on whatever shape it desired at that time. This includes main characters, the most put together of which being Samsnosa. Snosa appears to be a normal human wearing a hat and poncho. Everyone else has a weird head with a normal body, or is completely melted down into a clay blob. This is how most of Hylics appears visually, blobs of clay taking random forms, some things like dynamite, burritos, and TVs being recognizable, everything else appearing abnormal and strange. The whole thing reminds me of the work of Salvador Dali, things melting around familiar solid forms, taking the recognizable aspects of life and twisting them into a goopy paste. Conceptually, Hylics operates in the same level of weird. Dying sends you to the afterlife where talking fish flop around a Red Sea, a couch exists for you to crash on, and a meat grinder converts meat into flesh for you to use in-game. Crystals in the living world allowing you to travel back from the afterlife, continuing where you left off right after death. The real world being ruled by an unknown government. It is spoken of at random in dialogue, Gibby the Moon King ruling his own kingdom up on the moon. Somehow though, this bothers Wayne down on Earth, if you can even call it Earth. Wayne then decides to go up there and give Gibby a piece of his mind. This results in the events of the game. The whole time, the goal is to defeat Gibby. I wish I could say more about Hylics' world, but besides the trippy, clay-like bits, there's not much to be said. It seems to exist for the simple purpose of existing. It is a world of experiences, an art piece that exists within lines of code. It is mellow, easygoing, and lacks worry. Even the combat is somewhat reserved, your fights being to surpass what's in your way, though there is not much of a purpose beyond that. Hylics is an experience. It's one that I can recommend, maybe not to everyone, but to those who seek out things like it. The crazy yet toned-down feel of Hylics is found in many other weird titles out there, sometimes hiding among the trees or other facets of modern life, or just in a trash can by the street. Let me introduce you to jazzpunk. Jazzpunk is nothing like the previous two games I've mentioned. It has a more literal style, choosing to go the absurd route for its weirdness rather than incorporating it into its art style. It's not mind-meltingly strange, but it has those touches. Seeking to bend your brain around using slapstick humor, having ridiculous things happen simply because they must. Cruelty Squad and Hylics both scratch my itch for weirdness in an artistic way. Jazzpunk comes around to scratch my itch for weird humor. As I said before, it does this using absurdity. Things not being quite what they seem, or being absolutely what they seem, just what they are is completely abnormal. You have this overarching plot of a secret agent being sent across the world to uncover the doings of a mystery organization. At least, that's what it seems to be. What it really is a set of hijinks that you get yourself into while on the way to make your discoveries, taking you all over the world in the process. Jazzpunk throws a lot of scenarios at you. This is where most of the game's absurdist humor is at play. You get to be disruptive in a theater, harass a mailbox, smash all the vases in a vase shop, spray cheese into a rich guy's mouth, drive an RC gravy boat in a river of actual gravy, and I'm skipping over so much more. Jazzpunk is a sort of spoof-inspired adventure game, reminding me at times of Leslie Nielsen films with how it handles comedy. There are not many other places Jazzpunk goes. Where it does go is straight into itself, each mission getting more and more absurd as the game goes on. You find yourself in several exotic locales featuring a plethora of different characters and goofs. As the game progresses, the story becomes increasingly weirder while sticking to the classic tropes of spy movies. These tropes guide the game forward, keeping it on track while the rest of the side stuff grabs your attention. It gets crazy and weird, but it always ends up going somewhere that makes sense, even if it doesn't actually make sense. This is what I love about it. The adventure you go on is one that is familiar, like you've seen it a million different times in other movies, but the journey is full of so many different interactions that you can't help but feel like it's all new. In a way, weird games are just that. Experiences that follow a familiar path, but skew things in a way that makes them feel brand new. Some do a better job at this than others, but they all end up going the same place. They vary wildly in quality and accessibility, some being very hard, while others are a walk in the park, meant to be experienced calmly on a day off, or after a tough week. And there are no better games to play during these moments than casual games.